Most relationships don't break because of big betrayals. They quietly erode because someone stopped feeling heard. You've probably been in that silence, wondering what you did wrong. Here's what changes after the next few minutes. You'll understand why genuine listening is rarer than we think, and why the absence of it isn't a character flaw. It's something nobody ever actually taught us. What the Buddha discovered about compassion will completely reframe how you show up for the people you love. Imagine the deep forests of northern India, spreading out along the banks of the Ganges River. It's the end of the rainy season. The air is still heavy with moisture, thick with the scent of earth and wet grass. The sun is beginning to tilt toward the horizon, and the light filtering through the trees scatters across the forest floor in shifting, dappled patterns. The Buddha's disciples have gathered quietly in this twilight forest. Some have traveled far to be here. Some have just returned from their begging rounds. Others have only just risen from meditation. All of them look a little tired, and yet there is a calm about them as they settle in beside their teacher. Each time the wind stirs the leaves, a soft ripple of sound moves through the trees, and then stillness returns. Someone coughs gently. Someone draws a slow, deep breath. And the air in that small clearing shifts, just slightly. The Buddha looked out over his disciples without hurry. He sat the way a person sits when they have nowhere else to be. There was nothing rushing in his eyes. The words he spoke to his disciples that evening would eventually become known as the Metta Sutta, the discourse on loving kindness. He did not begin with doctrine. He began the way a good father might begin, speaking to children who had been out in the world too long and had come home a little worn. He spoke of safety. He spoke of happiness. He spoke of ease, the way you might remind someone of something they had always known, but had simply forgotten to carry with them. There is a scripture called the Sutta Nipata. It is one of the oldest texts in Buddhist literature, a collection of the Buddha's words preserved in the form of poetry. Within it is a chapter known as the Metta Sutta. In Pali, metta means loving kindness, the heartfelt wish for another's happiness. But it is not quite the same as sympathy thought up in the mind. The metta the scripture speaks of is something that rises from deeper within, a way of being fully present with another person. One evening, the Buddha turned to his disciples and said, "Listen well to this." The disciples sat up a little straighter. When their teacher said, "Listen well," they knew something important was coming. May all beings be at ease. May they be free from fear and live in peace. One disciple quietly asked, "Teacher, does that include only human beings?" The Buddha slowly shook his head. "No, the strong and the weak alike, the great and the small, those we can see and those we cannot, those far away and those near, those already born and those yet to come. May all beings without exception be at ease." The disciples listened in silence. The Buddha's voice was calm, but each word arrived like a stone dropped into still water, settling somewhere deep inside. Then another disciple spoke up. He had been carrying something lately, a quiet frustration he couldn't quite name. When he talked with the other monks, there was always a strange sense of distance. Words were exchanged, and yet somehow nothing seemed to land. He had been wanting to bring it to his teacher for some time. "Teacher, I am not good at speaking. When I talk with others, I feel something slipping away between us, like the words are there but the connection isn't." The Buddha did not answer right away. He simply looked at the disciple, steadily, without filling the silence. The disciple dropped his gaze slightly, and at that moment, the Buddha leaned forward, just a little, as if waiting for the next word to arrive. The disciple continued, "Am I doing something wrong?" Only then did the Buddha speak, quietly. "You are speaking about your own words, but how much are you truly listening to the words of others?" The disciple looked up. "I do listen. I listen carefully." "Do you? Then tell me, the last time you spoke with someone, do you remember the expression on their face?" The disciple fell silent. The tone of their voice, the pauses between their words, the things they swallowed before they could say them. The disciple had nothing to say. The Buddha spoke gently but clearly. "Listening is not the act of opening your ears. It is the act of opening your heart. Metta, loving kindness, begins with receiving the whole of another person as they are, not just their words, their silences too, their expressions, their hesitations, all of it." Stillness settled back over the forest. The Buddha continued with the Metta Sutta. As a mother would protect her only child with her own life, In just the same way, cultivate a boundless heart toward all living beings. When those words reached them, many of the disciples felt something tremble quietly in their chests. When a mother protects her child with her life, she is not only listening to the child's words, she receives everything: the cries, the laughter, the silence, the rhythm of breathing and sleep. She senses what her child needs before any words are spoken. That, the Buddha said, is how loving kindness listens, not with effort, not with technique, but with a presence so complete that the other person feels, without being told, that they are truly seen. One monk later recalled that after hearing those words, he returned to his hut and simply sat, thinking of his own mother, how she had once placed her hand on his back without a word when he was crying as a boy, and how that single gesture had reached somewhere no sentence ever had. There is a verse in the Metta Sutta that goes like this: whether standing, walking, sitting, or lying down, as long as one is awake, maintain this heart of loving kindness. This may sound like it is describing a meditation practice, but it is pointing at something deeper. Loving kindness is not something we call upon only in special moments. It is a quality meant to be present in every single encounter, every time we turn toward another person. Now let's take a moment to think about what it really means to truly listen. In Japanese, the word for deep listening, keicho, is written with the characters for to incline and to hear. It doesn't just mean receiving sounds. It means turning your whole body, your whole self, toward the other person. In Buddhist terms, this is exactly what metta, loving kindness, looks like in practice. The wish for another's well-being, the willingness to receive their suffering. That is the root from which real listening grows. So how do we actually listen most of the time? In most conversations, people listen while simultaneously thinking about what to say next, or they hear something that reminds them of their own experience and pull the conversation toward themselves. Oh, that happened to me too. Or they think they already know where the other person is going and rush to the conclusion. So basically you mean, none of this comes from bad intentions. It happens precisely because we want to connect. But what the Buddha described in the Metta Sutta was a different kind of listening altogether. Receiving the whole person, the strong parts and the fragile parts, the words that made it out and the ones that didn't, the exhaustion hiding just beneath a smile, receiving all of it, as it is. There's a common misunderstanding about what it means to be a good listener. It is not about nodding a lot or giving useful advice at the right moment. It is about not rushing the words, not scrambling to fill every silence, being able to wait while someone searches for what they're trying to say, and waiting with them. The Metta Sutta also says, act wisely, not cunningly. To be cunning is to try to steer others with clever words. To be wise is to quietly sense what lies beneath what someone is saying. Listening is not a technique. It is a posture. It is a form of respect for the simple fact that another person is here in front of you. That, I believe, is what this 2,500-year-old scripture is quietly saying to us today. When my teacher was very old, I once watched him sit with a grieving student for nearly an hour without saying a single word. Afterward, the student told me he heard everything. There had been nothing to hear, only silence and the sound of someone trying not to cry. So how does this listening with loving kindness actually come to life in our daily lives? Let's think through a few ordinary situations together. First, at work, a colleague comes to you to report a mistake they made. What do? You probably start thinking, why did this happen? What do we do from here? That's natural, and there's nothing wrong with it. But what the other person often needs to say first, before any explanation, is to be received, to have someone take in how panicked they were, how sorry they feel. When that emotional layer is acknowledged first, people can finally settle enough to talk about what comes next. To borrow the language of the Metta Sutta, first, receive the person as they are. Don't look at them as someone who made a mistake. See them as a human being who is feeling something right now, in this moment. That shift alone can change the entire atmosphere of a conversation. Next, at home, a teenager has stopped talking about school. This happens in a lot of families. Out of worry, a parent asks, "How are things going? Are you getting along with your friends?" The teenager says, "Fine," and disappears to their room. Why does this happen? Often, it's because what the child wants isn't questions, it's simply for someone to be there. The Metta Sutta says, as a mother protects her only child with her own life. But what does a mother do first, in order to protect? She looks at her child's face. She listens to the rhythm of their breath. She receives the full state of her child, before any words are exchanged. Sometimes, more than saying "I'm here whenever you want to talk," what matters is simply sitting nearby, sharing the same quiet time. In that kind of silence, real listening can take root. And finally, with a friend. A friend vents to you. My partner just doesn't get it. My boss is impossible. Every day is just so exhausting. When we hear things like this, we tend to reach for solutions. Maybe try doing this. Don't let it get to you. But most of the time, what the other person actually needs is not a solution. It's 2 words. That sounds hard. Have you ever talked to someone and felt lighter afterward, even though they didn't say anything particularly profound? That lightness comes from feeling that your words actually landed somewhere, that someone truly received them. When we feel truly heard, we come back to ourselves, and when we offer that kind of listening to someone else, we give them a place to return to. This is what loving kindness looks like when it moves off the cushion and into ordinary life, not as a grand gesture, but as a quiet willingness to stay. A cup of tea placed beside someone without a word, a hand that doesn't pull away. The Metta Sutta was never describing something rare or difficult to find. It was describing something we already know how to do, when we forget to protect ourselves from each other. Starting today, there is just one small thing I'd like you to try. You could call it the 3-second pause. When someone finishes speaking, don't respond right away. Simply wait. Just 3 seconds. That's all. 3 seconds is longer than it sounds. Try it and you'll feel it. After someone's last word, 3 seconds of silence, nothing said. At first it might feel a little uncomfortable. You might feel the urge to say something, anything. The silence might feel awkward. But something happens in those 3 seconds. One thing, the other person often keeps talking. Because the thing they really wanted to say is frequently hiding behind their first words. Actually, or the truth is, those deeper phrases get cut off all the time when we rush to respond. Another thing, a kind of stillness settles inside you. Waiting 3 seconds is an act of intention, a choice to actually receive what was just said, and that intention quiets something in you as well. The Buddha's disciples practiced what is sometimes called loving kindness meditation, silently offering the words, "May this person be at ease," while holding someone's face gently in mind. You can try a version of this in everyday conversation. When you look at someone's face, just let a quiet thought pass through you. I hope today is gentle for you. That's enough. That small shift changes how you listen. The next time you find yourself in a conversation, when the other person finishes speaking, wait just 3 seconds before you reply. You don't have to have the right words. You don't have to fix anything. Just be there. That is where the Metta Sutta has been pointing us for 2,500 years. Listening begins here. A monk once described it this way. He said that when he finally learned to wait, he realized he had spent decades hearing only the echo of his own next sentence. The 3 seconds were not empty. They were, for the first time, full. Try it today with someone you love, someone whose voice you think you already know by heart. You may find you are meeting them, quietly, for the first time. Before we close, I'd like to leave you with one question. The last time someone spoke to you, were you listening to their words, or were you listening to them? There's no need to answer right away. Just let it sit with you for a moment. Maybe you were already composing your reply before they finished their second sentence. Maybe you were nodding, but somewhere behind your eyes, you had already left the room. The words reached you, but the person, their trembling, their hope, the thing underneath the thing they were saying, perhaps they did not. And that is not a failure of love. It is simply what happens when the mind has not yet learned to be still enough to receive another human being. A cup that is already full cannot take in a single drop, no matter how thirsty the one pouring. Listening deeply becomes possible only when we stop needing to fix or change what we hear, and we explored that very foundation of acceptance in a previous teaching. You'll find a link in the description below. Today, we've been sitting with the Metta Sutta, the discourse on loving kindness from the Sutta Nipata, and what it means to truly listen. Near the end of the Metta Sutta, the Buddha says, "Never again returning to be reborn in this world." It is a way of saying, cultivate a heart of loving kindness so that the cycles of suffering do not continue. The pain of not being heard has a way of passing itself on. Those who are never really listened to sometimes lose the ability to listen to others. Words keep missing each other. Loneliness accumulates, layer by layer, but that cycle can be broken by one person choosing to truly listen. Listening is a quiet act. It doesn't create anything visible. It doesn't solve any obvious problem. And yet, making someone feel genuinely heard can gently hold up a part of their day, or sometimes a part of their life. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening to this today. May you continue to receive the words of others with care, and may your own words be received with the same care in return. May all beings be at ease. That is where today's conversation began, and that is where I'd like it to end. May your days be peaceful. There is a man I once heard of who sat with his dying father for 3 days, saying almost nothing, just present, just listening to whatever came. Afterward, he said it was the only time in his life he felt he had truly given his father something. Sometimes the greatest gift we can offer has no words at all. Pause. One story a day. Try it. In a week, your words will change. In a month, your eyes will change. In a year, the same world will look completely different.